Are you dealing with pain right in the front of your shoulder when you're doing bench press? Then you need to watch this treatment, because Brad's actually dealing with the exact same thing. We've gone through a few tests with Brad, and we found that the posture of the shoulder has sort of become a little bit internally rotated on this shoulder. So his pecs, subscap, lats, they're sort of dragging that into the wrong position, sort of having it sit forward like this. And what's happening with him is, as he's coming to the bottom of the bench press, it's dipping forward, internally rotating, and putting a lot of stress on his subscapularis, which is part of his rotator cuff, and the long head of the biceps, causing pain in the front of the shoulder. So what we're going to do today is we're going to treat that. We're going to sort of open up that shoulder, get it all sitting back like that, working through the delts, all those sort of tissues that are inflamed and causing him pain, and then sort of look at some exercises and exercise modifications that he can do so he can continue working on his chest and shoulders without pain. All right, so to start with, what we're going to work on is a few of the symptomatic muscles, so the deltoid and the long head of the biceps, and we're going to do that with some active release technique. So Brad's been dealing with this pain for about 3 weeks now, but he's found with his overhead press, lateral raises, and particularly his bench press, it's now sort of becoming some sharp pain as he gets to this sort of position really he's in with his shoulder right now. Now the subscapularis, the muscle that we found is causing the most pain for him, it actually starts, the muscle attaches on the inside of the shoulder blade around to the front here. So you can imagine if that comes all the way back, it's putting a lot of stress on those tissues. And then when it's already spasmed up in a stretched position, and then you go to initiate that lift in a bench press, that's where you get things like tears and whatnot happen if it's inflamed. So I would recommend for Brad, his first thing that we need to start doing is changing his exercises. So for an injury like this, I would peel right back from bench press and dumbbell sort of bench, both incline and flat, and go back to a floor press. So that can be the dumbbells or with the barbell. I find the barbell to be a lot easier, because what you can do is just set it up on the rack, scooch under it, and then you can just go from there. And the key with that is when you're doing a floor press, it's going to hit the ground, so you won't get that internally rotated position causing stress through those tissues. Next muscle I want to work on, long head of the biceps. So we've got the two parts of the biceps. There's short head, which does this, and long head, which does that. But the long head's the one that gets really irritated in that sort of deep sort of bench press position when you get the full stretch through the tissue. How's that feeling through there?
Slightly tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
You know where it is, don't you?
Yeah, right. Can't miss it. All right, let's get you laying down on your back now. So next muscle that we need to work on is both the Pec Major, which is this one here, but also the Pec Minor, and that also sort of touches on that underside of the shoulder blade, comes up and through and onto the ribs here. So we'll start with the Pec Major. So a reason it's really important to make sure you correct the position of the shoulder, make sure it's not in that internally rotated position, is both the long head of the biceps and the subscapularis, where they attach to the front of the shoulder, the fascia of them actually sort of fuses in with the joint line. And that's where the cartilage of the joint is. And it's called the glenoid labrum, or labrum. So if there's excessive pressure on that for a long period of time, that's where you get labral tears through the shoulder. And you know, some people can deal with a labral tear and it doesn't actually cause that much symptoms, but in other cases, it can really mess up your shoulder, create a lot of instability, catching, clicking, popping, and eventually lead to surgery, which really knocks you out of action for probably 6 months with that. So that's why it's so crucial. Like if you're getting pain in the front of the shoulder, it's a warning sign. You need to really address that. Let's get into the Pec Minor now. I'll get you to come round, Ange. So just relax, bring that up all the way, dig into that and let that drop back. So one of the major reasons people will start to develop that internally rotated position with bench press is poor sort of shoulder blade stabilizers. And that's being able to maintain a retracted position while doing the bench press. So there's two muscles that really control that retracted position, and that's the middle portion and the lower portion of the traps. So we all often think about the traps being sort of this muscle here, but that's just the upper traps. It comes right down to sort of the mid-back, lower than the shoulder blades there. So one of my favorite exercises to target those and make sure the control through that middle and lower traps is working well is the YTWL. What I'll do is I'll link that in the description below. Next muscle we're working on is that subscapularis, which is, I believe, the main symptom generator for Brad. And like I said, it's right up under that shoulder blade in there, and that feels pretty gristly. How you doing there?
It's pretty painful.
Yeah. If you haven't had this one treated before, this is a game changer for, doing control and having an efficient movement through your bench press, and even overhead press, and the stability and control with that, because it's one of 4 rotator cuff muscles, and they all need to be sort of look like not too spasmed up to be able to control as you press to get that efficient movement pattern. So we talked about the middle and the lower traps being able to keep the shoulder blade in a retracted position. But then another real key muscle to help stabilize the shoulder blade is the serratus anterior. And that's sort of that, with boxers, they get those rib muscles there. And so that comes from the side of the shoulder blade. And it sort of helps control the shoulder blade rather than hiking up when you lose retraction. It'll allow it to sort of track out to the side, and you'll get better strength and control through that. So again, I'll link in the description my favorite exercise to target that. And I think it's just to do the YTWL, and it's called the push-up plus. It's just the perfect warm-up to prime you for a strong, stable bench press. Next tissue I want to hit is the scalenes. So in the side of the neck here. Now this one, if someone's in an internally rotated position for the shoulder, what happens is the shoulder also hikes up a little bit. And then this muscle is just chronically in a shortened position. So I always like to treat this with, I'd say, most shoulder injuries, because it will change the mechanics of the neck, and people start to develop secondary issues like postural sort of dysfunction, and it can radiate up into headaches and things like that, which just really throw you out for the day, can cause a lot of pain. One more there. And again, same sort of scenario as the scalenes. We also want to look at the upper trap, because when that's all forward, again, it's going to lift that, put that in a chronically shortened position. So if you're enjoying this video and you're getting some good information around, the bench press and the mechanics involved in that, and then how to fix it if you've got any faults, Be great if you guys could subscribe. I'm trying to hit 5,000 viewers, and it would mean a lot if you can give us a follow. Great. Now let's continue working on the internal rotators of the shoulder. So Brad, onto your side, facing to your right. Give you a little pillow there. So another big internal rotator of the shoulder is the lats. So a lot of people think, oh, I'll train the lats and that will give me better shoulder posture. They don't realize that it actually drags the shoulder down and in like that. So yes, the rhomboids will help fix a shoulder posture, but most sort of pulling exercises, you're going to target the lats as well. So it's really crucial to make sure you maintain mobility through that tissue. So both with, I think, like foam rolling, sort of having the foam roller coming across this way, laying on top of it, going up and down for a couple of minutes at the end of a session, as well as just general stretching will keep that tissue healthy. One more. Good. All right, next muscle I want to work on is the infraspinatus. So Brad, let's get you going face down. So the infraspinatus is actually an external rotator of the shoulder, but its job is the exact opposite of the subscapularis. So it's the antagonist of that muscle. So I usually find if one part of it goes, the opposite muscle will also blow up. So we'll sort of work on that just so we can make sure that everything's functioning properly when Brad goes and sort of modifies his chest training and starts doing floor press. So Brad, for this one, from here, reach up, thumb down as I work into that tissue, okay? Go for it. Great. Yep. That is rough in there, hey?
Yeah, it's tight.
Yeah. Good. Let's go 2 more passes. All right, last one there. Perfect. So let's flip you over again. I think we've taken all the pressure off all those internal rotator muscles. The next is sort of decrease the inflammation in the shoulder, around the deltoid, the joint itself, and we'll do that with some dry needling. All right, so we're going to start with some needles just through the front of his delt. A couple of twitches there. And now more sort of at the attachment points of that subscapularis and the long head of the biceps, around where that joint line is and the glenoid labrum that I was talking about. So now that they're all in, what we'll do is we'll let that sit for 5 minutes as that sort of brings some blood flow to the areas and sort of get more oxygen to those tissues to sort of kickstart that healing process. So that's been 5 minutes in there. So we're going to pull these out. And that's going to be enough to sort of get those tissues healing and sort of will slowly ease Brad back into training. So for you out there, you might be wondering, what can I do to maintain strength in chest and sort of shoulder training? So for Brad, what I recommend is we keep him on floor press, and that's probably the only chest training that you can do at the moment. However, you can do multiple sets for that. So you could even go up to 8 sets for the floor press, but other sort of exercises for shoulders, because you want to be safe. You don't want to be pressing overhead and your standard lateral raise might be causing you some pain. So what you can do is even like gripping on and doing a leaning sort of lateral raise where you're not getting that full 90 degrees of shoulder abduction, but taking it to about 75, and that's usually quite safe. And then the other option you can do, which is really safe for this type of injury, is sort of front raises as well. So you could do that both with the dumbbells or the cable where you're pulling it through as well. So that way you're still getting a nice rounded load through both the delts and the chest. You're not going to atrophy while you have this injury and then ease back into your training as the tissues sort of heal. But that's it for today, and I'll see you guys next time.